We're all looking for that extra little something that's going to help elevate our song. Today, I'm going to give you 5 easy extra little somethings that you can apply to your next song that will work infuriatingly well. I'm Avi from JustWriteMusic.com, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and bell below for more videos helping you stay sane as an artist and, get a little better at writing music. It's never fun when the song that we're working on just isn't, working. It's like trying to make puzzle pieces fit together that just don't belong. Thankfully, unlike an actual puzzle, like we shouldn't do in an actual puzzle, we can shape the puzzle pieces in order to get them to fit together better, in order to better fit together. That's how English works. This is essentially how really amazing songwriters are able to take 2 sections that are totally different from one another and make it sound fantastic. And honestly, these 5 tips, these extra little somethings, do not take that much know-how at all. Even if you're a complete beginner, you should be able to employ at least 1 or 2 of these. That being said, these aren't standalone tips. These can be mixed and matched and combined and all that type of stuff. Cool. I hope you're down for this because I'm super excited about this and I love talking about this stuff particularly. So let's get down to it. Extra little something number 1. We're going to continue using that, I think. This one I call the MCR Rule. I named this tip for the band that taught it to me, or I guess more accurately, used it to the point where I noticed it. And that band is My Chemical Romance. I came to the MCR party late, but after getting into them, I noticed they arrange a ton of their songs with a certain formula, and it works. All we really have to do is make the verses and the choruses sound drastically different from one another. We can achieve this in a couple of ways. The more traditional approach to this is to have a sparse verse with limited instrumentation and then hit hard with the chorus with basically hitting us with everything we got. This makes the chorus feel like a bigger moment than maybe it would otherwise because we're just adding so much more oomph into the instrumentation. It's just going to be louder and bigger, so we're taking advantage of that sparseness from earlier. And because so much is being added, there's almost this sense of spontaneity and subversion of expectations, which everyone's so interested in. I mean, I love it, so I don't know why I'm criticizing it or being, sassy. But of course, we can also do the opposite. We can have a nice, solid, hard-hitting verse and then pull everything way back in for a nice, intimate chorus. I think this works really, really well for ballads and is mostly utilized for ballads as well because that intimacy, that lack, draws you in as we get to the chorus. Now, we've talked mostly about adding in instruments and changing up the instrumentation, and this is usually how My Chemical Romance does it. However, there are other ways to do this. A great option that you hear a lot of that's a little bit more subtle is you can change the harmonic rhythm or the rate that chords switch. Here's an example of a song that I produced and released a few years ago that utilizes the MCR rule, even though at the time I wasn't really aware that I was doing it.
Your head, 'cause I see your heart lying on the bed. Yeah, I see your heart lying on the bed. Help me not to go yet. There is so much left to say. The end is not the end because our cries will light the way.
Awesome. What did you think about the MCR Rule? Go and check out their music. I swear they do this all the time. It's kind of crazy, but it still works. You can't hate them for it because they're doing it really, really, really well. Okay, the next easy extra little something that I want to share with you is what I call the chorus push-pull. The last chorus is a big moment for any song. We can add to that moment by making the chorus hit harder by playing with our natural rhythmic expectations. What does that mean? All we need to do is take the bar before the chorus is going to hit and we add or subtract a beat from it. So we're adding or subtracting from our time signature. If we subtract a beat, the chorus hits before we expect it to. So we lose a little bit of anticipation. I feel like half of my videos is just me stumbling over English. Subtracting a beat will make the first beat of the chorus hit harder because it's coming earlier, and adding a beat to the bar before that chorus will make the chorus not hit less hard, but will add more anticipation to that first beat. To use a very violent analogy, If you subtract a beat, it kind of feels like the chorus is hitting you over the head with the first beat. And if you add a beat to the bar before the last chorus, it feels like you're falling into the chorus. Now, the whole idea, the reason why this works is we're defying that rhythmic expectation that we're setting up by having our regular meter. So if we're in 4/4 the whole time, throwing in a measure of 3/4 or 5/4 is going to kind of throw our rhythmic sensibilities for a whack. And that can be a very pleasurable experience, which we're counting on. This is also different because we're setting up the chorus differently than we have before. The normal pulse of the beat that our brain is following is suddenly changed, but only for a moment. Context is key here too, because if we're already in 5/4, then hitting more 5/4 isn't going to feel different. Here's a example of both, although the adding of a beat doesn't necessarily happen at the chorus because I was doing fun things with the arrangement. But here is an example of this from an unfinished demo, so please excuse all the things. Here you go.
We are the warriors disgraced. We are the vagabonds displaced. We are the rogues out in the street. We are the stones under your feet. We are the pathways burned and salted. We are directions curled and rotten. We are the street lights in the fog. The creeps who see it all. Rising tall. We are the instinct clawing out. Rapid voices full of doubt. Don't ignore what they have said. Those whispers shouting in your head. We are the scarred. We are.
Okay, that was the chorus push-pull. It really works. It sounds super cool. I think it sounds super cool at least. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button on your way down, because why not? Extra little something number 3 is aptly placed in this video because it is the rule of 3. If I've learned anything from Adam Neely on the YouTubes, it's that repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. Each new song or piece that we hear teaches us how to listen to it. It's essentially creating the rules that we are expecting it to follow. As songwriters and composers, we create those rules. And by far, one of the most powerful tools that we can use to establish those rules is repetition. Now, I have a lot of feelings about repetition, and personally, I don't think that you can just repeat the same thing over and over again and expect it to sound good, especially if you expect it to be a primary part of the piece. Listener fatigue is a real thing, and we need to take that into account. It's actually our worst enemy, and we need to kill it. Dead. To avoid the pitfalls of repetition, make sure that you don't repeat anything directly more than 3 times. This is more or less the magic number I found, but you can also go with your gut on it. For me, that 3rd repeat sounds a little too predictable, so personally, I follow more of a rule of 2. Now, you can get away with more than 3, but you have to be careful and make sure that they're not direct repeats. This requires varying or slightly changing the material in some way. You can change the meter, the harmony, the pitch material. You can add faster rhythms, you can add slower rhythms, literally anything. Generally, I try to find something that seems really obvious about the piece and start to pull it in the opposite direction a little bit, but just a little bit, inch by inch. Here's an example of the rule of 3 in that 4 horns piece that I just keep bringing up and not finishing. Okay, we are more than halfway through our easy extra little somethings to make your songs a whole lot better. All right, our 4th extra little something, our 4th easy songwriting tip that just works infuriatingly well, and that is the second verse change up. This one's pretty straightforward. Never have the second verse be exactly the same as your first one. This is another fantastic tool that you can use in order to stave off listener fatigue. You can change anything about it to make it stand out. Examples include reharmonizing or using inversions in the bass, personal favorite of mine, changing up the drum beat a little bit, like going into halftime or double time, or especially subtle things like moving from the hi-hat to the bell of the ride cymbal, or adding in a few extra kick drum hits that weren't there before. Another thing you can do, and another favorite of mine, is to add a counter melody or a texture part in the background. Keep in mind here that we don't want to change things so much that it doesn't sound like the same song. The bones of the verse have to be the same, we're just dressing it up a little bit differently. That being said, experiment and be creative. I have a rule for myself where I essentially keep things if they make me smile or laugh, or they give me goosebumps. That means that I know I'm on the right track. Here's an example of the second verse change up from a song that I'm currently demoing called Step by Step. Here you go.
Leaves fall and nightmares roam. I wish I could face them. Torn clothes and cuts to bone. A day sets on the sea. Awareness seeps within, sustained and roused once there, sparking an inner dawn, lighting the path ahead.
All right, on to our fifth and final extra little something. This one I call the section speed up. Now, when we're going through the process of writing a song and all the phases in which they're in to releasing it, it can be really easy to get attached to the way certain parts of the song sound. The song that we just listened to, Step by Step, like I'm mentioning, I'm working on it right now, I'm demoing it. The sections move from the main riff to the verse, to the pre-chorus, to the chorus. And then we finally go back to the main riff before the second verse.
Torn clothes and cuts to bone. A day sets on the sun. Step by step, step by step, it comes to you.
I was really attached to that order because that was the way I originally wrote the song. But after demoing and listening to it a bunch of times and arranging it and adding instruments, it just wasn't working. I found myself getting bored by the second verse, and that's never a good sign. My solution was the section speed up. Take an existing section of your song where you start to feel a little bit bored and cut it right in half.
A day sets on the sun. Step it comes to you. Cold grass, night noise.
Now this doesn't have to be exactly double. You can just add a little bit extra, add it by a quarter or add it by a half, something like that. And this can also work in reverse. If you feel like a part hits too early or it just doesn't feel earned yet, you can double or add to the section preceding it so that it does feel more earned. In fact, by cutting this first pre-chorus in half, it makes the second pre-chorus, which is still the original length for now, twice as long. It may or may not stay that way. By cutting that first pre-chorus in half, that chorus now hits a little stronger. If I did decide to leave the second pre-chorus in its original length, or double the first pre-chorus now, it adds a little bit more time, a little bit more anticipation for that last chorus, because we've started the build-up earlier than we would have otherwise, even if just subtly. Okay, those are them you find. All right, those are my 5 extra little tips for you. I'm dropping that now. These are my 5 easy songwriting tips that work infuriatingly well. And they're really not hard to implement. They're pretty easy. This is easy stuff, right guys? Crickets, I'm sure. I find subtlety to be the name of the game when it comes to arranging. Little changes often aggregate into bigger diversification in the song, which is ultimately a good thing in like a contiguous and contained way. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. If you want even more tools to pull out of your songwriting belt, check out my free guide, 7 Ways to Write a More Effective Melody. These are more simple tools that are proven to make a difference, except number 7. Number 7 isn't necessarily simple. Head to justwritemusic.com. There is a link down in the doobly-doo. Which tip did you find most helpful? Let me know down in the comments. And if you didn't find any of them helpful, or if you have one of your own to share, let me know that as well. I'm Avi from justwritemusic.com, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.